Welcome to the free audio rendering of Not Without Scars 2. Such an insightful and impactful work must be accessible to the countless number of people living similar life experiences. Becoming a best-selling author pales in comparison to creating a tool capable of instilling hope in the multitude of people trapped in the valley of decision. My greatest profit comes in helping others emerge victorious over their life struggle. My goal is to encourage individuals to follow their dream. My message: you must never quit on your faith, pursuing your aspiration or vision. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take a moment, invite your family, friends and acquaintances, and enemies to listen to this work chapter by chapter. It is free to listen as well as free to subscribe. Peace, love, and phenomenal blessing.
How do I write my life story? I know hurt and pain. I don't like either one, whether physical or emotional. Herein contains my story, Not Without Scars, Part 2. Optimism, perseverance, persistence, resilience. 2 decades of personal struggle. Optimism. I faced a new millennium with hopefulness. Perseverance. My ego, my humble beginnings, my desire to achieve never allow me to turn away from a difficult task. Persistence. Opposition should be anticipated as an effective strategy to victory surfaces. Resilience. Difficulties do not automatically spell termination. Scars reveal my imperfection as reminders of past episodes of pain, sorrow, or triumph. Scars can tell beautiful story endings or relay misery that wishes to remain anonymous. This work is meant to help others who have experienced decades of struggle. When struggles appear to never end, you must get through the night and face the challenge of a new dawn with fresh hope.
Chapter 15, The Trial. Introduction. The trial is the criminal justice version of a live play with real life emotion and outcome. Quite often, the components of the evidential portion of the trial get fabricated in the presentation to arrive at the justification of the role individuals have embraced as a profession. Winning and losing by the professional attorneys as well as the professional referee judge loses sight of the individual labeled the defendant as a fellow member of the human race. The list of witnesses by the U.S. attorney included many individuals who were employed or associated with me in some way. I suppose that would not be unusual in a criminal trial. However, the personal aspect of my trial differential was that all these individuals had profited in some way financially from this association with me. It was not like it was a fraud case where I had cheated them. They all owed me funds or benefited directly from my distribution of funds. Of course, the school treasurer and my CPA were at the top of the list. I was hurt most by the apparent joy or freedom that each seemed to display as if it was some high privilege to reduce me to nothing. They spoke words that had to be voluntarily given. No line of questioning could have produced those specifically uttered words. I understand the application of pressure by the U.S. attorney. These individuals were most likely operating out of self-preservation. Perhaps they had situations that threatened their well-being and freedom that had nothing to do with me or camps. Only one such individual present in testimony struck as if she had done humanity a favor. It was an attitude of sanctimonious achievement. As she neared my seat at the defense table after exiting the witness box, she waited until she was near me and uttered, "Thank you, Jesus," as if he had given her strength to walk across a lake of water. It was as if she had given testimony at a revival service. I found her vindictive expression in direct contrast to any Christian application. Oh, well, I was found guilty. Immediately, I was placed in handcuffs and swiftly taken into custody. I had hoped to remain on home confinement until sentencing. That was not to be the case. I was ripped away from my family and freedom. I would be plunged into prison life. The Reverend Mark Carvin Old would now become number 08803 056, the number assigned to me as a bank robber in 1979. Historical. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow line, sail away from safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, discover. Mark Twain. When your life is on display. The trial concluded with a conviction. Men and women are trained to get a conviction, as their next promotion depends upon their conviction rate, not their achievement of justice. With my life on display, the U.S. Attorney's focus was on his ability to sway 12 people who happened not to be my peers to believe his presentation of who I was. My life was portrayed as a bad man who did good things to cover up his bad deeds. I realized that the trial was over. I would take the customary steps of an appeal, knowing full well that 3 other judges who were friends were not going to go against one of their friends on my behalf. Yet the criminal justice system continues to function as if it really has a just system in place. So I could be angry and wrestle with the system every day and pretend that I'm accomplishing something, or I could take the time to recalibrate my soul and spirit as I exercise and maintain my mental and physical well-being. I could dwell on what I had done and who I once was, or I could begin a renovation and restructuring of who I am. I chose to lock in on what I would explore to create a new path for myself. I would dream bigger than ever and find the tools to build a ladder to scale whatever barriers that stood as hindrances to my reaching my dreams. Plus, I would never stop looking ahead to my destiny. My destiny was never to perish inside a prison. I had to discover the next phase of my existence that would outshine anything that I had previously known. With my life on display, I chose to search for my innermost being to illustrate my potential, a potential that would demonstrate my capability of becoming the greatest Mark Carvin Olds possible. The ability to find a calm place in the midst of the storm would allow me to create my own safe haven. Only I could dictate whether I sail toward an oasis of ideas or a desert of washed up dreams. I held a desire to accomplish great things in the future, not lament over what might have been if things had not slipped away. Shifting gears would take a little time, but the transmission within my soul would get me back in gear. I have been stripped momentarily of substance and status. Hurt would fill my being from time to time. These disappointments would fade. I would never list these items of regret as having power to derail my life. I would always summon the faith and strength to use my brain to the full capacity to overcome any and all challenges. It will not be stated that Mark Carvin Olds failed to deploy or have a faith that was bigger than the constraints which were leveled against him. Social Black experience. You got to learn to leave the table when love's no longer being served. Nina Simone. The recognition of the helpless situation. The loss of an excellent reputation was devastating. A reputation, good or bad, has to be earned. One has to work hard to gain a reputation that has any merit among people. Something imminent has to become an identifiable mark. Because of the incarceration, I would have to come face to face with reputation issues. I would have the task of struggling to restore an old but a good reputation, or I could expend my energy building a new reputation that would have excellence and impeccability as the foundation. I would choose the latter. I would pour my energy into forging a stalwart reputation that would be based upon new accomplishments. I would put on a mantle with the intent of consistently producing positive, successful results among the people that benefit the people. A fresh reputation will overtake me and shall overcome the past. One newspaper article written by someone who was not known to the people who knew me was believed and unquestioned. Even though the same people had known me for many years, that signaled to me that it would take too much energy to go back and try to convince or win back individuals. To make it ready for myself in the field, I would have to pray and plan in advance how I may best move forward to serve the populace. The goal, the assignment before me would be to minister to the needs of the people unselfishly and love my neighbor as myself. Fulfilling these two steps while serving and loving God with all my heart, I shall develop and will earn a reputation. Observing the conditions of the populace, it will become a necessity to open my mouth for the silent and fearful, the unfortunate, and the unrecognized. I will not be quiet in the face of oppression. I will righteously speak for justice for the afflicted and needy. It would take a minute, but I knew that I had to leave behind what was now obviously in my rear view mirror. The accolades were now hot gossip. Why should I subject myself to ridicule when a new and different world was unfolding? Looking back to my past would be like dressing immaculately to impress people who did not like me and I did not like them. There would be a new ball and I would find the new escort. Losing all of my earthly accumulations and possession produced moments of overwhelming depression. This was a resounding understatement, but a place in which I could not afford to dwell. Once I had been stripped of material properties, such a shedding created a feeling of helplessness as well as being reduced to a state of mental chaos. Poverty had become a form of psychological warfare, which I had to continually fight on a sociological battlefront. When it has been arbitrarily administered, poverty can become an even more explosive weapon. The sudden impact can add another dimension to the extraction of freedom. Poverty can serve as a preparatory class, the prerequisite to resilience. Due to my personal history with poverty, I could face the loss of material things without surrendering my will to succeed. A current negative plight may penetrate my world, but it will never be viewed as a permanent fixture. I had chosen the road to travel as an overcomer. Theological. By the help of God, I will praise his word. On God I lean, rely, and confidently put my trust. I will not fear. What can man who is flesh do to me? All day long they twist my words and trouble my affairs. All their thoughts are against me for evil and my hurt. They gather themselves together, they hide themselves, they watch my steps, even as they have expectantly waited for my life. Psalm 56, verses 4 through 6, Amplified Bible Classic Edition. When all is lost, I have taken the loss of an existing reputation as an excellent opportunity that has been created by the grace of God to perform even greater works. This experience shall merely produce another opportunity to fulfill a mightier witness for Christ. In the midst of being separated from all that I had worked so hard to achieve, my willpower had to rely upon new foundation. My confidence had to experience renewal. I did not fear the future. Pain, agony, frustration, and turmoil was certain to surface. What could these same tactics do to me that I had not experienced in previous skirmishes and battles? No amount of arguing would augment what people in the past held as their thoughts about my legacy. To some, I would be a nebula that was visible but quickly faded. Regardless of the description ascribed to me by others related to my history, I was destined to make even greater history. That was my standard of living, my faith perception. It would be my mind's focus and not merely a daydream. It would become my daily bread. I will not waste energy attempting to sort through the mess that resulted in the current predicament. Twisted words and misguided affairs would only build my frustration. I am on a course to disappoint all who would await my demise. I shall live to produce a greater career of service to the people who are the multitudes in the valley of decision. 2006 to 2007 persistent summation. A, the race no one should have to run. The race no one should have to run is the one against their own internal clock. I regret, among so many other misgivings, have to retrace steps that I've already abandoned. Mistakes of trying to draw people along with me simply because I like them. I placed myself on a treadmill of deception. I knew they were not qualified to ascend beyond their personal shortcomings. Running to catch up with one's destiny indicates that delays and detours have occurred. I missed what should have been clear instructions. Therefore, I had to run through several unintended mazes to find my way. Running on fumes can make it difficult to maintain a pace in order to arrive before the next refueling station closes. B, an arrest out of a movie. The early dawn raid on my home was straight out of an episode of The Wire. For sure, they were looking for Avon Barksdale, not Reverend Mark Carvin. The exercise helped me to understand the place a Black man holds in the eyes of power. Respectability and acts of community engagement meant nothing. No matter how many backpacks filled with school supplies and natural bodies were fed, I was one escalating moment from meeting a death warrant. Would I be scared as a result of this experience? No. I knew this was merely a dress rehearsal to be constantly repeated by men and women who were anxious to repeat this evolution of policing in America. Stopping the life of an individual by an arrest, well, it is choreographed on so many levels, weaved throughout the web of American existence before the order to move on a subject's address. C, and an ordeal of home imprisonment. The ordeal of home confinement is a mental challenge when your children have to understand that the head of their household has an earlier curfew than the teenagers living under the same roof. I had to examine the different approaches to life and what makes a family structure so important. The bond of family is so subtle, yet so very complex. It is only through pain that I grasp cause that existed before my very eyes. Unique in experience, I learned to relax in the midst of monitoring. My life could not be regulated by electronic monitoring. My physical presence could be detailed, but not what transpired inside my head. I refused to shut down one thing that held the most promise in my life, my faith. D, when life shows the real life. I discovered that life reveals life in its rarest and rawest form. Who we are illuminates or darkens by the perception we have concluded for ourselves. At the same time, others have rationalized through different lenses their truth assessment of us. I will build my next chapter on a destiny that guides me and not mine or other assessment. This will allow me to watch and observe myself. Then I can stay true to my divine mission. E, the justice of a trial in America. It is important to understand that justice in America has a range of evaluation tools: race, status, wealth, value to the power elite, value to the system, socioeconomic current trend, and political association or threat to a political association. Somewhere outside these spectrum graph markings are the common criminal required to fill beds and provide job security. Way off in the distance exists the law for the people.